We'd like to welcome you to the BlackUSA.News morning show. My name's Donnie Glover, and boy, do we have a treat for you today. Yes, we have a treat for you today. We have the one and only, we got the real MJ. Everybody knows Michael Jackson. We got the real MJ, Moonyene Jackson Amos, attorney at law, Esquire, boss lady. Good morning.
Good morning, Donna. You're sweet. Good morning.
Now, normally when we interview you, you're down on the Eastern Shore.
Yeah, today I'm in New York in Queens. I came for my great niece's high school graduation. Yeah, so it's been a really nice time. Her parents gave her a wonderful barbecue, and a lot of the kids came over. So it was nice yesterday. So I'm relaxing today, but they're all through the house. So I'm outside trying to enjoy the breeze, but also chill. I guess
how was the weather there in New York?
Beautiful. It's like 80 degrees. So yeah, it's lovely. It's lovely.
Now, see, you still, I see you still fly with the eyewear.
Oh, yeah. Well, I try to be up on things.
And you keep some Afrocentrism around you also.
Oh, all the time. This is who I am. It's not a pretend. This is who I am and what I do, what I'm about.
So for those who don't know you, you are the first Black county councilwoman in Talbot County.
Well, yes, but it's the municipal councilwoman, 8 years, but still in the county. I was the first African-American woman, and the county was formed in 1700 around there. So that's sort of an accomplishment, I guess.
You know it is. Well, the accomplishment also is standing up for your people, and you have done that like a soldier. I mean,
that's who I am.
You invited me across the Bay Bridge. You did 2 book signings for me. One, oh my God, help me out.
The Talbot County Library, Talbot County Library, and the other in Cambridge.
And you told me that it was not a sundown town, didn't you?
No, I don't think I said that, but the people came out. Yeah, let's not make it up now. The folks did come out to support, though, and I was glad of that. Well, we need to have another one for your new book. I have to confess, I haven't purchased it yet, but I intend to do that. A, to support, and B, you always, you were the first that I know that really talked about Black Wall Street in the depth, that it's now being talked about. So, I want to support that. But also, I think on the shore, anyway, folks know you as far as Black Wall Street is concerned, So I think that's kudos to you.
God be the glory.
Oh, absolutely.
I did have to mention Harriet Tubman in this book, and I also had to touch on John Brown, Captain John Brown.
Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely. Well, Harriet Tubman is my mentor, even from afar. Even though she's an ancestor, she's seems to have favored me.
We can't see your face. We see only one of your eyes.
Oh, really? Okay. So do I do that now? How about that?
Right there. Don't move.
Okay.
Yeah, so
okay.
You do reenactments when it comes to Harriet Tubman.
I do. I love her life. I love telling her story of courage, but also of consistency. She was true to her calling and never wavered. And she loved her people enough to risk her own life to gain freedom for herself and her family and others, any of the others who were willing to go, to realize that they had been enslaved. Yeah, so I have the privilege of representing at least part of her life, that which I'm not only familiar with, but people may not believe it, but she gives me some insights as to how she felt then, and I think how she feels now about our still remaining captive mentally.
How does she feel?
Well, we are often distracted. I think distracted from whatever the goal is, the goal of freedom of expression and freedom to create the world that we want to live in. We are distracted by all kinds of movements that don't necessarily elevate each of us or the causes that we express. And Harriet Tubman wasn't distracted. She had a goal of freedom. She believed everybody should be free. And freedom meant, to be able to do your own thing, to live your own life. And she never wavered from that. And I think today we are very caught up with how we can embellish our own lives, as opposed to a mutual goal of respect and creating the life for each of us around us, if you know what I mean.
I do. When it comes to Black Wall Street, Moonyene, I've watched so many people all of a sudden cash in on the concept of Black Wall Street. And so just so you know, what I wanted to look at in the book is not Black Wall Street. I wanted to look at how those Black people got to Oklahoma.
Yes, I was reading that, the Seminole in the Tail of Tree, Trail of Tears. Yeah, okay. I'm interested to.
One important thing to know, because see, we got to go back and get the story right. If not, then we'll have a misunderstanding of how great our ancestors were.
Absolutely.
One myth is that the Blacks on the Trail of Tears were all slaves. And my book clearly proves that was not true. You had warriors on that pathway. And I'm here to tell you that the first Black leader in Oklahoma was not a slave, but a warlord.
Okay.
And when he didn't give him freedom in Oklahoma, he went to Texas. And then he went to Mexico. And he was establishing Black towns all along the way. Something they don't even tell us about in the history books.
No,
so we got to go back and figure it out for ourselves, because we've been lied to. White people have been lied to. Facebook, I wanted to tell you this. Me and Facebook had a fight. First of all, I blocked the page. A lot of people think I blocked them. I had a page with about 200,000. They blocked it.
Oh, my.
Oh, yeah. 211,000 followers. They blocked it. We were touching 4 to 5 million people a month. But they also told me, they said that Harriet Tubman did not free 1,000 people. And I said, you're a damn lie. She freed 300 on her own and 700 with the help of the Union Army, because you told me she did it down at the Combahee River.
That's exactly right. 742.
Yeah, so 742 and 300. She freed over 1,000. Oh, boy, I like to catch them people.
No, well, you know what? I had a major argument with one of the writers, so-called writers of Harriet Tubman's history. And she's been given an elevation by our people, as well as those who sort of cursorily look at history.
Oh,
anyway,
you talking about a culture vulture?
Exactly, and I don't even want to mention her name, but the bottom line is she
stealing.
She had said that Harriet had only freed 70 people, and my question to her was, why does it matter? I mean, in point of fact, I said, but why is it that you need to diminish the work that she did? And I said, well, I don't really quite need to hear your answer because it doesn't matter. I know that she could count. She couldn't read, but she could count. And she counted those that she carried to freedom herself and those that she directed through maps and information she could draw in the sand. And she was very successful on the Combahee River, 742. I mean, she was in the first woman to command a ship, and so these revisionists or historians really trouble me.
Yeah,
because many people believe them, and because
what you really want to say is you're sick of these white people trying to tell our story, and you're sick of the Negroes who defend them.
Well, all of that, I don't have trouble with my words. You're right, though. That's exactly, and they're capitalizing on it, which really, really troubles me. And
what do you mean? They making money off our history?
Do you think not? Do you think not? And have the blazing trails, their own trails, on the backs again of our ancestors. It's very troubling. And like you said, our folks are
real gullible.
Well, they also are looking for personal aggrandizement, unfortunately. And so therefore, whatever floats the boat. Now, that's not all historians, not all Black folks. I mean, and I know we are not talking about all, but there's a significant number, and they stand in the way of the truth. And that's it. It's an exhausting fight trying to get your information above all of the screams and hollowing of those fraudulent people. That's what I call them. They're definitely fraud.
We just got to get our children involved. We got to make sure we educate our reinforcements. And one of those great leaders said, I guess it was Franz Fanon, that every generation has a fight. And that's why my book is important and books like it, so that we can educate our people. Otherwise, let me tell you something. I haven't interviewed you since that white muralist came down there to the Eastern Shore and painted that picture of Harriet Tubman, and all of these Black people went crazy. I don't want to see nobody's rendition of my people. I want to see what my people painted. I don't want to see nobody else's, period, end of story. I don't want to see it. And when I find a Negro defending that type of stuff, seriously, I want to write a story about him and his mother.
Well, I hate to inform you that this same muralist was hired to paint Frederick Douglass in Easton.
We ain't got no muralists. We ain't got no Black muralists.
That's the same thing that I said to the young man, whom I really like. But I just, the idea that someone would agree to pay for this muralist only if they could select the person who did it. Now, I don't mind.
They better not let me near, because I'm gonna throw some paint on it.
Well, you don't want to do that, but you can coach him. They want to do one more of Anna Douglas Murray. Anna Murray Douglas.
No Black artists.
There are quite a few, and it's very upsetting to me that we don't invest in our own. And there's not enough money in the world that would force me anyway to select somebody that I didn't think represented my own culture, my own, boosting of our own people. That's just what we need to do. And it has nothing to do with um, uh, uh, white folks necessarily, or Hispanics or anybody else. It has to do with recognizing your own. We're always talking about Black power, Black movement, Black elevation. But when we have an opportunity, to create that space, it seems like we go elsewhere, and it's very distressing. Yeah. So anyway, that's going up. They're about to celebrate the Frederick Douglass one. It's been completed. The same man who did the Harriet Tubman um, mural. So, and the Frederick Douglass family, I hate to say, in support of this, and so uh, it's very distressing to me. Yeah. So I know you're shaking your head. I do agree, but it is what it is.
We saw it here in Sandtown. After Freddie Gray, all of these white muralists want to come to my neighborhood. This one muralist on Pennsylvania Avenue put up a mural talking about we all came here as immigrants. No, we didn't.
No, we did not.
And I couldn't believe the business owner was Black and allowed this on his wall.
Oh my goodness. Well,
why don't we know when we are being insulted? Are we that stupid?
No, but we're hungry for money, and wait, hold on. But the thing about it is, we don't realize that if we invest like they did, like Black Wall Street, like our foreparents did, they supported each other, and they figured out how to win. And it seems like we've lost that as a people. Yeah, but it is insulting, and it's more than insulting. It's really devastating to our history and to our legacy. Speaking of which, over in Easton, they allowed. When I say they, the quote homegrown African Americans. That was brought to my attention. Homegrown. Anyway, they allowed the first school, Russell Moulton, to be demolished, right? Only Black school. And then the next one was a school, elementary school named after a well-known Black educator, Ed Dobson. And so I found out, I said, well, how did you come to decide to demolish the school? Because you could preserve anything, and most people do preserve them. And the manager from the school system said, well, I talked to several Black activists. I said, oh, Lord. I don't know who that is, but I do know. And they thought that it would be all right if we go ahead and destroy the school because it didn't seem that it could be preserved. I said, of course it could be preserved. I said, how many old buildings in this country are refurbished and reserved because they have historical significance to certain groups of people? I said, now when you turn to Easton, there's nothing. There's nothing that represents the education of Black folks. And my father was a teacher at one of those schools, and I knew many of the teachers there. I did not go to school there. Fortunately, my high school has been preserved on the historic registry. Kudos to the people in my town in Stanton, Virginia. I didn't have anything to do with it except to pray for them and give them praise. I was living someplace else, but they had the foresight to make sure that our building was secure in terms of our historical relevance. But here they allowed it to be torn down. And I frankly, I was just very tired of the fight, having fought for Frederick Douglass on the courthouse grounds, and fighting to be an elected official, and fighting to represent kids in schools who were being expelled, I thought wrongly. and some other kinds of things like that. So you get very tired when I have to say you don't have the forces with you to help to carry on the fight, because no individual can do it alone. But my point is, right over there where I live, right near me, the schools have been destroyed, and our so-called leaders, and I say so-called because that's how I truly feel, are distracted about moving this Confederate monument. And I mean, so that's a symbol. I mean, I'm not gonna say that that's not a worthy endeavor. However, I know this is not really a segue, but I'm going into it now because it's so distressing to me. I said, while you are fighting to remove this monument, you couldn't do two things at one time. You couldn't maintain your own legacy. Now there's nothing for the youth to look up to that says, look what my people did. Look how they advanced the cause of African Americans in this community. The teachers that we've had, they work so hard. I mean, our folks sold, had bake sales and all of those things to raise money to put bricks and mortar, for our churches and our buildings that represent us. And here we are distracted by something that may be of significance, but is not as important in my view as maintaining the linchpin to your history. So I don't know what we are trying to do. Whenever there's a movement nationally, we just jump on, don't even look at how it does relate to our elevation and our continued significance as a people. You have to watch when you are joining forces with people who don't necessarily have your interest at heart, or even if they think they do. We need to think for ourselves, live for ourselves, define ourselves. And then, if you have allies, that's important. That's good. But the allies can't direct traffic all the time. All right, you're pondering there.
I just don't know where to get in at. I mean, what's the deal? What statue?
The Confederate statue that's on the courthouse lawn over in Easton. And it's they call it the Talbot boys. And there's a lot of, discussion around it. But something, in 2004, when I organized a group called the Frederick Douglass Memorial Action Coalition to have Frederick Douglass memorialized on the courthouse grounds, but not just Frederick Douglass. The concept was to have Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, Union soldiers, others who participated in the move for freedom for the enslaved population in that area and in the world. In this country. And the idea was to create a storyboards, and that's the person who won the contest we had to have the Frederick Douglass statue and like I said, the storyboards. And none of these folks who are out here running around talking about the Confederate, removing the Confederate soldier, were a part of this determination to have the real history realized on the courthouse grounds. And my thought at the time when I advanced this was, okay, so the Confederate boy is there. If you have a broader story in Easton, see, every county is different, every place is different, But if we had the storyboards there, you could tell the entire story, even that of the Talbot boys, and it would make the history more understandable and also more accurate. And now the fight is to remove the Talbot boys. And, it's not something that I have engaged in because I just think it's a misplaced opportunity. Now, in certain parts of the country, where the statutes are huge and in the major cities, and there's so many of them. I agree that we should remove them. But the opportunity that we had in Easton was different than it is in Baltimore, even, or in DC, to create that enclave right on the courthouse grounds to really have a history lesson, so that the children, anybody coming to that place, could have a fuller history. And we had an architect to design this to show that it was compatible with that the design that we selected was compatible with the courthouse grounds and all of that. Although she took our money, and I'm just going to say it, and didn't. If she did a great job, but when it came to arguing before the county council, this woman wouldn't sit down with us, and she didn't defend her work. And anyway, that goes off into a different story. But the point is, now it's popular. It's popular to fuss about the Confederate symbols. But what I wish is that they were more interested in the unemployment rate of Black folks in our community, that they would maintain the legacies that are important to us. You look throughout the courthouse in Talbot County or the lower courthouses, and you don't see maybe one African American employed in the Register of Deeds and in the in one of the departments. I don't believe it's I'm losing my thought. But you go there and you don't see anyone that looks like us, and it's very, very troubling. And I was fighting that for years when I was on the council. And these activists were silent. And these activists remain silent, except for something that is okayed by.
That's not an activist.
Oh, I know it. I'm just being facetious. That's what they call themselves, the civil rights activists.
That's a sellout.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what it is. And you might as well call it what it is.
Listen, but I haven't talked to you about J6. What were you thinking when you saw them people climbing the Capitol walls?
Well, I thought they were being true to who they were. I thought they were true to who they were. And they felt free enough now to expose themselves, because there are no repercussions, and no repercussions for the so-called president. 45.
You gotta like how these people justify their work. You gotta love how they justify it. Also, if they were Black, they would have been shot dead.
All of them, everyone. And I mean, it's a scary time, because the fact that they were so brazen to go and even fight the police and break into to the Capitol, it's not a surprise to me, frankly. It was frightening, because that means there are no longer any sacred spaces, and so my hope is that this new civil rights,
like soldiers, they seem more like cowards. I'm from North Avenue, and you know a man when you see one. You also know a chump who's a follower that wants to be a part of a lynch mob. You understand that when you see it too. A real soldier don't get down like that. Those were cowards.
Yeah, they are cowards, but at the same time, they felt emboldened, because that's the direction that the country was heading in. So the fact that they felt emboldened, and the fact that they really didn't think there would be any repercussions.
They are no different than the thugs on the streets of Baltimore killing each other. No,
well, that's true.
And they worse, because they hide behind white privilege. They not real. That's not a real man. That's a chump. Put him in a jail cell with no gun. You'll see what he's made of. And I ain't tough Tony, but I was raised like that. A punk with a gun is a man. You better be able to handle yourself without your gun. And what we saw cowards.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, a real man don't care like that.
Well, but the thing is, all right, so that happened. My question is, now what? And so they're all going to be released?
They should all get federal time.
Well, I hope they do, but I'm not sure. And what about 45?
New York is digging up in him. Look like the whole family gonna run into something. Sooner or later, somebody gonna slip. Let me tell you this. Karma's gonna get him.
Well, I hope so. I'd like to see it.
Well, now you're asking for extra meat there. You're asking for extra there.
Well, only the one upstairs.
And whether it is his son or his children, karma is coming. You already know that.
Yeah, I do. But like I said, I was asking extra, but I really was talking to the man upstairs. I'd like to see him get it right now. But
look how
it's amazing.
He talked all that smack, and then he ended up with COVID. He is so insignificant to the big scheme of things. He's a dot. He's not even relevant.
Yeah, well,
he's that way, but he's really not. God is all that matters.
All I know is I can't say he's not relevant. I can't say that because he's part of the landscape. And what is very troubling to me is that it seems like the fall of the empire, as it were. You know, big stars fall, and the United States has been a big star, and so
karma is real. And right now, Moonyene, there's a new age. My buddy calls it the age of Aquarius, but there's a new age, and the black woman is leading the way. Now, I'm not talking about the ones that's black skin. I mean, real black to the core, not the one that make up. They act like they black. No, real black women.
Well, I think the younger ones are doing a super job. I look at Vicky Dillard. Do you watch her on YouTube? She's a young activist, and she really does tell the truth. Queen Amadea, I may not be saying her name right, and some of these other young people who are not only speaking the truth, but their research is excellent. Their historical perspective is spot on. Their love for their people is unquestionable. And so I feel like we might have a chance as a people with those young people who are part of the new black media, as it were. And so I don't know all of them, but there are quite a few that I listen to. There's also another show, and of course you bring on a lot of people who are in that mold. And go ahead.
University of Maryland Eastern Shore.
Mm-hmm. What about it?
How's it doing?
I have to be honest, I don't know.
The black people it is still a HBCU, right?
Yeah, it's still it's still an HBCU. It's not as vibrant as I had hoped. I don't want to really criticize too much. What?
You don't want to pimp slap them, but you're gonna tell us. Are they taking
not
care
today.
of black people?
Okay, I missed that, the last part.
Are they taking care of black people?
Black people. Oh well, that's what I'm saying. I don't really know. They're not as engaged as they were when I was more relevant to what black folks were doing on the Eastern Shore. I had to take a hiatus. So
I found that our HBCUs are often asking for money.
Well, they
but
are.
I also know that we have resources that we don't even use. I've seen this at Coppin. I've seen this at Morgan. It's always we need more money. But after they get the money, are they doing what they should be doing with the money? Let me give you a point. Let me give you a point why I say this. Right now, the Olympic trials are going on.
Yes.
And we have some stars, just a couple from our HBCUs, particularly in track and field, come out of North Carolina, the Aggies. But in talking with the coaches of these HBCUs, track stars that go to a white school, they get a lot more publicity. And so HBCU has to decide, do I put money over here supporting that? Or do I put money over here supporting that? And so anytime we get two North Carolina A&T Aggies in the Olympics, it's 100 times bigger than a Sha'Carri Richardson. It happens at an HBCU. And those resources go back to an HBCU as opposed to the white schools, whatever the proper term for it is. So I don't know, the HBCUs, as much as they need money, they have to do the right thing with the money that they do get. Otherwise, it's a big damn game. And too often, let me say this, too often the Black college president is more of a problem to the Black community than a blessing. Because a lot of them are just like a one-night stand.
Oh, that's graphic and clear. Well,
Michael Haney writes, 45 is as relevant as those who crafted the Constitution, which we as a people have mistakenly thought was a document protecting us and Native Americans, forgetting we were in slavery. Accommodations have been made along the way, but make no mistake, we are and will always be viewed as second-class citizens. We have a better chance under a United States of Africa. You missed last week's show. Michael Haney was broadcasting live from Uganda and from Kenya. And I mentioned on that show that I want to be the first president of the United States of Africa.
Oh my.
They say if your dream doesn't scare the crap out of you, then it's not worth dreaming. So that's my dream.
Okay, well, I hope to live long enough to see it. Yeah, I know. I didn't see your show.
A very strong military, a very strong military, a very strong military. Secondly, a very strong communication system. Africa still feeds the world. South Africa, I've read where they got 13 Chinese police stations in South Africa. Hey,
wow.
Ain't gonna be none of that in my Africa. None of that. Yes. Look it up.
Oh my goodness. Well, I do know this much, that in my limited travel to Africa 4 or 5 times, Ghana, Nigeria, and the Gambia, and that's where I've been, and I've seen so many foreigners employed on the highways. They're in charge of the too much of the commerce. And so I don't know when we as a people, wherever we are located, will begin to believe in ourselves, to structure our own economy, to structure our own lives, to maintain our culture.
The first things I'm going to do when I'm president of the United States of Africa, I'm going to every European nation and we're stripping every damn thing they ever stole from Africa and putting it back. And we're going to go and dig up their ancestors and take them for a couple 100 years. It's only fair to me. Not that we want it, but yeah, all of that stuff they stole from Egypt and Benin.
Oh, yeah.
Give them this stuff back. Folks, next thing I want to do is go to Belgium.
Okay.
And we taking over the whole damn country because they done stole so much of our stuff. We might as well make that a part of Africa. Just remove the people out of office. Yeah. Because Leopold Leopold got
Yes,
some bills. He got a lot of bills
that's true.
in Africa.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
As soon as something happened to Belgium, black people gonna change their profile picture. Oh, save Belgium. What kind of stupid is that?
I know. You're funny. No, but you're telling the truth. That's the thing. Yeah, so
I'm not saving you. You stole from my grandmother and you ain't paid it back. And your children talking smack to me. No, I'm going to step back and let karma bust you upside the head.
Yeah, that's true.
That was liberating. That was very therapeutic.
Well, yeah, I received it. I received it myself. But it's really important that we know that they did steal it, and it's important that we start demanding that these artifacts be returned. I know some of them. I think I'm right. From Britain went back to Nigeria this past year. I don't really recall the specifics, but
thief ain't gonna never give you everything back because that's not. It's larceny is in their heart and souls.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they stole us.
I don't expect any decency out of these savages. By the way, Moonyene, you know, there's a young people. The young people listen to a song. It was especially last year, and the song says, "I'm a savage."
I don't know it.
Well, it's a popular song, but I just think back to all of them times white people call black people and Indians savages, and now we calling ourselves savage. Kind of like women calling each other the B word. And then
I know it's ridiculous.
Oh, this person should get an NAACP Image Award. What kind of stupid are we? What kind of stupid is that? A special kind of stupid.
Yeah, I can't argue with that.
Oh, here's a new one, Moonyene. People asking 2- and 3-year-olds what you want to eat. What I'm getting to, Moonyene, is the level of respect. Have we lost our mind when it comes to parenting? Because these today would have you think that I'm old-fashioned, and I'm just going to be old-fashioned. I'm going to train you like my mama and my grandmama trained me.
Amen.
And if you don't like that, there's the door.
Oh, I mean, it's amazing the license that we give young people who are not old enough to think, you know, and we're teaching them so many bad habits. I'll call them bad habits. And we're not allowing them to experience youth and also to learn discipline and respect, as you say. It's mind blowing. And I think that's why many of the leaders or the younger leaders are now opting to have their own schools again. You see, I was brought up in a time where we loved our schools in the segregated South. And I don't know why everyone talks about it like it was the worst thing in the world, but the so-called idea of integration, in my view, stripped us of our own love for ourselves, our own confidence-building family. You see, when you are taught by your own and they believe in you, they have high expectation. That's when you prosper, and then you move into the other world and work with other people. But you can't just throw the children into a foreign environment with people who don't understand them. And I'm not going to say they don't care about them, but that's what it appears in many instances. But whether they do or they don't is irrelevant.
Malcolm X said only a fool lets his enemy educate his children.
That's exactly right. Malcolm did say that. That's exactly right. But not only that, the trust and the nurturing that you get from home, and home meaning people who have the same interests and culture that you have, and it builds strength. And, you have to be fortified to go into this world. And our children are not fortified because they're always looking left or right to who is
we're crippling them. When you were coming up, when you were coming up, did you have to catch public transportation?
Sometime.
But you know how to get on that bus or that train and get there on your own.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, we want to drive them everywhere today. The kids don't even know where the bus goes, how to catch the bus. Let alone
yeah, that's true. No, we had to. Now, when I said sometime, I went to school, to the segregated school, in the segregated school system, and the buses were segregated, of course, as I'm sure you know. But that didn't stop me from riding. But because I lived sort of in a county, we had to pool our transportation. And so sometimes my parents would drive us, and then sometimes we catch the bus, and sometimes the county bus would stop and pick us up. So but the bottom line was I knew how to negotiate from one point to the next point, depending on the circumstance. And so
you was hitting them with law schools in elementary school, weren't you?
I was what?
You were threatening them. You were threatening people with lawsuits in elementary school. I'm going to sue you. You keep on.
I held my own. Trust me. And then my mother.
Moonyene, did you see the moon last night?
Did I see the moon?
Yes.
I did not. What did I miss?
It was like they call it a super moon, especially 2 nights ago. And then you come on the show, here come the moon. So before you even came here, we knew the moon was saying something to us.
All right, then. Come on. Working with the elements.
Why do you keep going on? Why do you keep fighting for Black people?
Because that's who I am. These are my folks. I love my people. And my job is to help to usher in new days for new people who look like me, and to push them on and encourage them. Even I can't do what I did yesterday, but I can still cheerlead. I can still, stand on a circle and encourage them to go forward. We've got to maintain our own integrity about not just our own lives, but the lives of our people. And so that's my job. Said, you have to say it again.
Michael Haney he shared a strawberry moon. I don't know what that is. You know what a strawberry moon is?
I don't, but Michael, please tell us what it is so I can. It sounds delightful.
Michael runs a training school, and his reasons for going to Africa were to recruit some people for the hospitality industry and hospitality training that he offers through this entity right here called Global Training Centers. This is Michael's work, and they help employ people in Ocean City, among other places. So he was over in Uganda and Kenya working on that connection. Tourism is an important industry, and it's time we learn how to make tourism work for us. Have you bought any Bitcoin yet?
No, I have not.
I'm surprised.
No, don't be surprised. I see it advertised and I hear all of this discussion, but no, I haven't.
Okay. So what's on the agenda for this year?
Well, right now, to be truthful, I'm working on recognition for my grandparents who reared over 327 children in their home. They didn't call it an orphanage, but that's what it was originally. And an industrial school that's in Stanton, Virginia. And that's what I'm doing right now, recognizing their humanity and their contribution to that particular community. We still have some of the property that they invested in. And even though the home itself, the first one, burned in 1955, but I think it's really late for me to be doing it, but nevertheless, that's what I'm working on, and trying to find as many of the young people whose parents uh, completed that their lives there and who went on. I mean, and the story is wonderful because so many of them were accomplished. They were teachers and pianists and domestic workers, but they all were told that they could do something to not only better themselves, but to better the world. And so they did. And so that's what I'm working on. But um, I'm coming out of what I call my retired status so that I can become a little more active. Sometimes you have to know when to rest and when to remove yourself from the fray. And so that's
know when to hold them, know when to
know
fold
when to fold them.
know when to walk away. Okay.
That's exactly.
So why is education so important to you? I've watched you educate family members, ensure that they get their education from the beginning to the end, from the cradle to the grave.
That's
why
right.
are you so adamant about pushing us into college?
Well, not just college, but also vocational school. You have to know what's going on in the world around you, but you also have to, my father used to say, earn the right to speak. And that's what he said. And so we are in a society that we live in. We have to be able to negotiate, and part of that negotiating process is knowing what the other person is saying and thinking and doing. And so we have to begin where we can, and that's a formal education. But I also believe in developing common sense, teaching people how to develop common sense. Also, I'm sorry, we don't have enough folks in vocation. The journeymen now are the contractors and the plumbers and the electricians are making money hand over fist, at least in my area of the world, in that on the Eastern Shore, new buildings, and very few of us are even involved in it. And so we have to know how to live in the world in which we are we've come into. So I want my young people to know how to fend for themselves, how to understand, how to love themselves, and how to be confident in whatever way they want to move in this world. Yeah, so that's what I do. I try to encourage.
With these last 7 minutes, I gotta ask you, what would Harriet Tubman say to us today?
Oh my goodness. And of course I should be ready for that because I know you and I talk about Harriet all the time. Harriet Tubman was a person who also wanted to push people to do their best. And so she would be finding some entrepreneurial endeavors, because even though she was freeing herself and other enslaved folks, she also had a vegetable garden, a fruit garden, and she sold those items to make money to help other people. So she would be trying to advance business, folks in a business direction to do for self.
Hold up. You just said on this show that Harriet Tubman was an entrepreneur.
Yes, she was.
You also have taught me, and I've learned how she was a property owner, as was Frederick Douglass, because some of these dumb people try to write about our legends, not even know the full story. You think Harriet Tubman had a couple million stash?
Well, she didn't have a couple million, but she had she was never wealthy, but she had enough to get by, or she knew how to commandeer some cash so she could get people free. And she knew how to raise food and to sell them. That's what she did do, so that she would make money. She was a businesswoman. She understood money. She did.
This Underground Railroad, I learned something from Gina Lee, and also in researching. Gina Lee does a show on this network, but Harriet Tubman, she had property. What was it that Gina was saying? There's so much to Harriet Tubman's story that people. The Underground Railroad. Who started it? Was it the Amish, the Quakers? Help me out.
Oh no, they didn't start the Underground Railroad. It was there was an enslaved man who was in Michigan, and he wanted to get free, and he decided to swim, and I'll say swim, from that part of Michigan to Canada. And so he went into the water, and they couldn't find him. And they said he escaped underground. And so that was the beginning. But you're not the Amish. You're talking about the Quakers were helpful as part of the Underground Railroad. They had stations, and they were reliable allies in terms of helping the enslaved to escape. But anyway, that was the beginning. Was this one person, and they said, "Oh, he escaped underground." He was a Black man, and I don't know his name, but I do know that story. And then, then it caught on that individuals could find safe haven if they decided to escape, and they called it underground. Of course, it wasn't underground; it was all overground, actually. But there were many allies, but Lincoln didn't free us. We freed ourselves. They freed themselves, as it were. And that's a story. That's part of the story that should be understood and told, because he gets a lot of credit for emancipating people. And
did you know that the first Emancipation Proclamation in this country was actually by the Spanish? That's why you got to get my book. Hold up. You got to get the book, I Am Black Wall Street, because I talk about how Florida was a freedom colony. If you escaped Florida, you were free. But the Spanish, not Lincoln, offered freedom to any Black that made it to Florida, converted to Catholicism, and was willing to fight for the militia. We forget that the British were not the only ones up in here. We also forget that America was 100 years behind South America in slave trade.
Yeah, that I did know. And I also knew that Florida was a safe haven, which is why I don't understand all of the concentration on folks traveling to the north. But everybody wasn't going to travel all the way to Florida either. I mean, so it was 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other. But I did know that. And
the Blacks and the Seminoles, which was a collection of Indians, worked together. Yeah. But there were some Native Americans who also enslaved. The Indians were tricky.
Yeah. And I learned about John Horse. I had not known about.
That's a boy there.
Yeah. So
I Black towns all across all the way from Florida to Texas.
Yeah, and he died in Mexico, right? Is that right?
Between Mexico and Texas, but he was all about. There should be movies about him. When I watched 007 and John Wick, this was the real John Wick. This was the real Shaft. This was the real bad hombre, Chief John Horse, Black man. And I also give John Brown big kudos. If Chief John Horse is my primary hero, Captain John Brown is my other hero, because I think he was the greatest white man that ever lived.
Oh, I love John Brown and the story that he saluted Harriet Tubman as a general, and they if she could have gotten to him because she had premonitions about the his being captured, and he didn't. She didn't want him to carry out the raid at the time that he did, but she had become ill and she could not get to him in time. But yes, they met several times
and he knew Frederick
created.
Douglass too.
He knew, yes, he did, but he spoke more highly of Harriet than, I mean, sorry to say, than Frederick Douglass. He saw Harriet as more of a warrior, to be honest.
Yeah, Frederick Douglass too. Hey, down there where you live at, I read in the narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass where he was sent to a nigger breaker, Mr. Covey, and instead of his back getting broken, he broke Mr. Covey's back.
Oh, so embarrassing. Yes, he did. Beat him to a pulp. So there was nothing cowardice about him. He was just a strategic a thinker who had also been engaged. After he grew up, he somehow was involved with all stratas of this society. So he thought a little differently. But yeah, he beat Covey. I was. That was a wonderful moment in history that when I reviewed it, I felt like I was right there. Yeah, I went to that area, toured all around. When I say toured, it's not very much to see, but you can feel
talking to you.
You can feel that. That's exactly right. And Frederick Douglass, to be frank, I don't think he would be really happy about that engagement on the courthouse grounds. He's that, they weren't interested in that kind of symbolism. When I say they, I'm talking about Frederick Douglass and Harriet now in particular, they wanted to see how are you going to go forward and carry your people forward in a manner that was sustaining. And I don't think they would be distracted by some of the references that are being made now about how to handle this current history. And I do think, don't misunderstand, I do think that removing some of these symbols of white supremacy are very important, but the most important ones are what kind of jobs do we have? What kind of business opportunities? Where's the money going that sustains our community? Where is it? So we are being distracted about things that don't feed our tummies, that don't build our homes. We have to be able to do more than one thing. Now, if a flag is flying like in Mississippi and someplace like that, I'm all for that being removed immediately, because that's a current thought, that's a current embodiment of the same white supremacy. But those things that are obscure, sometimes you need to be able to meld them with what you think is important and show the full history if you can, because it's very important. So anyway, that's my thought.
How can people get in touch with you?
My email is moonyene@gmail.com, and that's what they should use. I don't give my phone number out because they call too much. And
you got the right to say that.
Yeah, well, and I don't mind, but I'm just not as active, and I'm gonna be active in what I really want to do and what I have the time to do.
Time. That's what it is. Don't be wasting Moonyene's time. She got channeling to do. She's got messages to deliver.
Yeah, that's right. But however I can be of service, I'm very interested. But I want to do what's going to be relevant. I'm not interested in fanfare and fluff and all that foolishness. I'm just not, so if you don't really have a sincere idea to help African Americans move forward, well, that's not my angle. That's not what I'm doing.
Thank you for joining us today. We have to bring
Thanks
you back.
For having me.
You're always welcome here. Always welcome. And I'll come to see you as soon as I can, however that works. But I get a little leery. I had an experience over there on Tillman Island. That drawbridge went up on me. So I don't play with y'all.
Well, I will be happy to have you. We may have to have another book signing. I mean, with this new book, I think that'll be a great opportunity for people to hear you discuss the backstory of Tulsa and Black Wall Street. That'd be great. And so we'll work it out. But thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Appreciate the time.
All the best to you. And I love those glasses. You stay fly. Your eyewear, you just stay fly.
Thank you, dear heart. All right. And continue success.
Bless the Lord. We'll be back at 7 p.m. tonight with Black USA Crypto News, hosted by Kamal Hubbard. Be safe, everybody.
Okay. Bye now.
Bye-bye.